The snake friends is selected from Mr. Pu Sungling's Strange Stories from a Chinese studio. The entire story describes an extraordinary bond between a snake charmer and two green snakes. All creatures have spirits, and over time, emotions develop. The author employs a fictional snake to infuse human-like consciousness and emotions into this unknowing creature, portraying sincere emotions between snakes and humans as well as between snakes themselves. This story is profoundly touching and rich in human sentiment. In the Eastern County, there was a man who made a living by charming snakes. He once raised two green snakes, one larger named Big Green and the smaller one named Second Green. The second green had a red mark on its forehead and was especially clever and obedient, performing every command with elegance. Therefore, the snake charmer cherished it more than the other snake. A year later, Big Green died. The snake charmer intended to find another snake to replace it, but he never got around to it. One evening, he stayed overnight at a temple in the mountains. At dawn, he opened his bamboo box only to find Second Green gone. Frustrated and disappointed, he searched everywhere, calling out, but there was no trace of the snake. In the past, he would release the snakes in places with abundant vegetation, and they would return after a while. Because of this, he hoped that Second Green would come back on its own, so he waited patiently. As the sun rose high and he grew desperate, he left reluctantly. As he had just taken a few steps away, the snake charmer suddenly heard rustling sounds coming from the tangled grass. He stopped in amazement and saw Second Green returning. The snake charmer was elated, as if he had found a priceless treasure. He put down his load, and Second Green also stopped. Looking behind the snake, he noticed another small snake following. He stroked Second Green and said, "I thought you had left. Did you recommend this little one to come?" He took out food to feed both snakes, and even though the small snake stayed close, it hesitated to eat. Second Green held the food in its mouth and fed the small snake, as if the host was entertaining a guest. Only when the snake charmer fed the small snake directly did it eat. After eating, the small snake followed Second Green and both entered the bamboo box. The snake charmer trained the small snake alongside Second Green, and it performed just as well, with hardly any difference between them. Thus, he named it Little Green. The snake charmer took them on tours to showcase their skills, earning a substantial income. Ordinarily, the snakes a charmer handles are no longer than 2 feet, as larger ones become too heavy and need to be replaced. However, Second Green was well behaved, so the snake charmer didn't replace it immediately. After another 2 or 3 years, Second Green had grown to over 3 feet long. It curled up inside the bamboo box, causing it to become completely filled. Hence, the snake charmer decided to release it. One day, he took Second Green to the East Mountain in Sichuan County, offered it the finest food, and bid it farewell with blessings before releasing it. Second Green left, but shortly after, it returned, winding around the bamboo box. The snake charmer waved it away, saying, "Go. No banquet lasts for 100 years. From now on, you'll hide in the deep mountains and valleys and surely cultivate into a divine dragon. How can the bamboo box be your permanent dwelling?" Second Green left, but soon it returned alone, crawling back into the bamboo box and curling up. The snake charmer realized that Second Green wanted to bid farewell to Little Green. He opened the box, and Little Green darted out of it. Second Green and Little Green intertwined closely, like 2 pieces of candy sticking together. After a long while, they separated. The snake charmer blessed Little Green, saying, "I've wanted to part with you. Today, you have a companion." He then addressed Second Green. "You initially brought Little Green here. You can lead it away. I'll give you one last piece of advice. In the deep mountains, you won't lack food and water. Don't disturb travelers, or you might incur divine punishment." Both snakes lowered their heads, seemingly accepting his advice. And then they swiftly departed, with Second Green in front and Little Green following. As they passed, trees and bushes parted to make way for them. The snake charmer stood there for a long time, watching until they were out of sight before finally leaving. Since then, travelers passing through the area remain safe. just as before. One can only imagine that if these two green snakes were aware of the story, they would probably feel ashamed.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.